Money King. Jojo stood firmly in court, pleading his innocence with a determined voice. His eyes were fixed on the judge, hoping for a fair verdict. But the courtroom held more than just his fate. Another man, tears streaming down his face, begged the judge not to release him from jail. He explained that behind bars, he at least had something to eat, a respite from the gnawing hunger that plagued him outside. The judge, with a heavy heart, ordered the man's immediate release, emphasizing that he should not resort to petty crimes to feed himself. As Jojo and the other detainees were ushered back to their cells, he had formed an alliance with a fellow inmate named Abraham. Together, they endured the harsh conditions and shared stories of their lives on the outside. During mealtime, Jojo faced a confrontation with one of the robbers who had mugged him previously. The bitterness still lingered in his heart, and this time, he saw an opportunity for retribution. With unwavering resolve, Jojo delivered a powerful punch to the robber's face, rendering him incapable of retaliation. The commotion that followed was palpable, with the robber's associates threatening Jojo's life. However, Jojo, bolstered by his newfound allies among the economic freedom fighters, remained unfazed. The tension in the cells reached its peak that evening, as everyone braced themselves for a possible attack. Days turned into nights, and Jojo's bond with the jailed protesters grew stronger. They pledged to continue their movement for economic freedom once released. Finally, the day arrived when Jojo and his comrades returned to court. The judge, recognizing their right to protest as an exercise of their human rights, declared them not guilty and set them free. As Jojo left the cell, the thug he had punched issued a chilling warning that he would be hunted down. Jojo, now breathing the sweet air of freedom, wondered what lay ahead. It felt like he had escaped one prison only to find himself in another. Abraham, his trusted comrade from their time behind bars, offered him a place to stay for the night. Jojo sighed with relief, knowing he had found a friend in this unforgiving world. As the Matatu journeyed through the labyrinth and alleyways of Nairobi's slums, Jojo and Abraham couldn't help but bear witness to the pervasive desperation and despair etched on the faces of the people they passed. The weight of suffering seemed almost unbearable, and they silently pondered what each individual might do to escape their harsh realities. With a heavy heart, Abraham gently tapped Jojo, signaling that it was time to alight from the Matatu. As they walked through the winding paths towards Abraham's home, Jojo couldn't help but notice the respect and warmth with which Abraham was greeted by people along the way. It was clear that Abraham was a familiar and respected figure in this tight-knit community, and his influence and popularity were evident in the smiles and greetings he received. People of all ages, from young children to the elderly, acknowledged Abraham as they passed by. Some exchanged pleasantries, while others simply offered a friendly nod or wave. It was a stark contrast to Jojo's experience in the city, where he often felt like a faceless stranger in the crowd. This display of community and camaraderie was a heartwarming sight for Jojo. It made him realize that even in the most challenging circumstances, there were pockets of support and connection waiting to be discovered. It gave him hope that he could find his place in this new environment and build a better future with the help of his newfound friend, Abraham. Navigating their way through narrow and winding paths, Abraham explained to Jojo that his family didn't have much. But despite their humble circumstances, they were more than willing to host Jojo. This revelation surprised Jojo. He hadn't known about Abraham's family during their time in prison. Finally, they reached Abraham's humble abode. Jojo couldn't help but notice its relative decency compared to his own ramshackle dwelling. The welcoming committee was led by Abraham's two sons, each under the age of 10, who were ecstatic to have their father back home. Abraham introduced Jojo to his family, and the warmth of their hospitality enveloped him. Abraham's wife, gracious and kind, prepared a sumptuous evening meal, and Jojo couldn't help but express his delight at the delicious cooking, remarking that Abraham was indeed a lucky man. Over dinner, Abraham's wife asked Jojo if he had any family in Nairobi or elsewhere. A wave of loneliness washed over Jojo as he confessed that he was utterly alone, without any family by his side. The room momentarily fell into a somber hush, reflecting the stark contrast between Jojo's solitude and the warmth of Abraham's family. But Abraham, determined to uplift the spirits, reassured Jojo that in the morning, he would introduce him to some of his friends from work who could help him get back on his feet. This news was a lifeline, and it rekindled Jojo's hope for a better future. With a designated place to sleep in the living room, Jojo settled in for the night, his stomach content and his heart filled with anticipation. For the first time in a long while, he drifted into peaceful slumber, carried by the belief that brighter days were on the horizon. This story underscores the power of community and the positive impact of having strong social connections. It reminds us that in times of need, reaching out to others and forming meaningful bonds can make a world of difference in our lives. Stay tuned for the next episode of Money King by liking and subscribing, and join us in witnessing Jojo's continued journey towards economic freedom and self-discovery in the challenging urban landscape.